Hi guys, it's very early here in London, and so I'm hoping that you guys can hear me clearly. I'm trying to do this video at 6:37 a.m. and some of the videos that we're going to put out will be conversations that kind of stir some amount of controversy, for lack of a better word. Um, the discussion today is around the society and the labeling of women as hoes. Um, this has been going on for some time, and I think it's needed to have that conversation or have that discussion around where does this whole concept stem from and why it's such an active agent in the society, creating stigmas and labels that are condescending, elevating, controversial, and questionable in itself. Now, I think many people, if if they have an open mind to what is about to be said, will be more, hopefully, more averse in suggesting a label attached to women who are very important and core to the functionalities of the society. Now, any information suggested in this video is not to state that in some scenarios that women haven't caused some of the reactions or the stimulus is attached to, or the catalytic reactions attached to the label itself, but there are large amounts of confusion in the society as to how information is interpreted and the dangers of such information to the, the individual and how people perceive themselves and their ability to move to higher levels of consciousness and development. Now, some people might be surprised to know that one of the root aspects of women being called hoes, and I know I'm going to get some backlash for this as a possibility, but it comes from the beginning of the human existence into, or for lack of a better word, people's existence into this reality. Now, when we come into this reality, or when we are born, we are told that we have an assigned person who is called a mother. Now, no man will want to actually, well, most men won't actually want to sit there and think, how does hose connect to my mother? Now, remember, guys, women, girls, young people, people of different backgrounds and culture. I have a mother too. So it took me some time to realize that there was some sort of trend attached to the whole concept of the label of women and hoes. Now, some of the ways in which, and I'm not a professional that's qualified in this area, but I've done a lot of research in my life, and some of the things that I've researched and looked at is information and how information flows, and how trends are identified. Now, going back to the concept of having a mother, within the word mother, there is a possibility of doing an extraction, and in that extraction of mothers, if you look at the word carefully, you will notice that you can extract hoes from mothers. Now, that would suggest that within the constructs of the word itself, that when a man comes into this world and he's told he has a mother and that information is repeated over and over again, there's a subconscious embedding in the mind to say that there's a connection between hose or hoe and mother. This means that any emotional formulations or attachments that are formed through the consistent referral to the term mother, subconsciously, what happens is, as a possibility and a hypothetical, is that the brain is now convinced that certain characteristic traits of a woman of considerable standing in the eyes of the in the eyes of men connects back to the term hoe or hose. Now, if one isn't observant or knowledgeable or just looking at small information that may seem not important, it may come across as if, is that really relevant? But just imagine a young man or girl repetitively repeating the word mother and connecting hose back as an element of extraction. The young woman, some, not all, but the young woman might be inclined to believe that the stigma or label of being a hoe is actually a quality characteristic trait to have. Now, there's more information around the whole construct and the context of the word mother, but as the individual not only goes into life but experiences life, they connect to some form of security and protection and also nurturing and development with the mother, and the child is then brought to a house or a home. Now remember, we're looking at words from the viewpoint of how information is interpreted from a base level, because there are so many different levels of technicalities as we go along the tangent of looking at information. But if the child is handed over to its mother, and there are words that can be, well, the term hoe is extracted, and then the child is taken to a house, and every day the child looks forward to going home. Now, the term, we can move on to the term home and house. If you look at the term home and house, we can also see within those two words that there's another extraction that is similar to the term mother that goes back to whole within house and home. And it's not really rocket science, is it? You can see clearly that ho is in the term house and ho is in the term home. Further to that, most times in order to survive in the society, w- well, what has been learned is that we must have hope that, mm, we will make good decisions for safety reasons, for security reasons, for survival reasons. Now, it's a bit daunting sometimes to sit back and hear how women have been, com- well, not completely, but have been characterized as being this derogatory, somewhat derogatory term because it operates within certain constructs and it's embedded in the mind. Another observation that I've had is that one of the connections back to hoes, and it's so ironic because hoes tend to have a sexy way of dressing. Well, some of them. Yeah, I'm not laughing because this is a serious conversation. And one of the security aspects of how humans survive is to protect the body as well. And the body, a part of the protection of the body is clothing or clothes. So you you're brought into this world and you're told you have a mother, or we agree that we have mothers. We're brought to our homes or houses and we put on protection gears like shoes as well. And we hope that certain things will be viable for us or work for us. And we wear clothes to protect ourselves. Now, if you look at all these words that are mentioned in this, imagine this information being fed to the mind over a very, very long period of time every day. After a time, what happens is that the information, it's almost like you're operating on autopilot. So as a hypothetical, when the individual gets to a point of selecting a partner, a lover, or just some form of connection for physical reasons, they will have as a construct within the mind that they should actually be connected with people who represent the terms that are familiar to them, to the degree where it creates a sense of security and comfort as well as reassurance of the fundamental basis from which mankind operates for survival reasons, which is protection, protection, and who would be selected to sometimes reproduce with. Now, what happens is that some some people find themselves in situations where they're even reproducing with women that they don't necessarily think are suitable to reproduce with, but that is within another complicated construct. But let's look at it from the base level. But they find themselves either investing time or energy or investing money as well into these women that are being labeled as hoes. And it's a great focal point and a point of discussion as well. And the reason why it's a point of discussion is because it's the information is so much repeated, well, not repeated, but so regularly used loosely in the society that it's natural for women to almost be accepting of the label. It's a subconscious thing, and also for men to be accepting of the label when applied to the woman. The real the real issue is understanding the root of where the word stems from and why our actions connect, or why we operate within certain constructs. So even if there are men that stand up out there and they've actually suggested that women are acting outside of the constructs of not being hoes, the meaning of the word also connects back to men feeling more secure in themselves, feeling like there's some form of investment, connecting it to their offsprings and also where they stem from. So it's a subconscious embedding in the mind. Now, some of these discussions that we will have moving forward may seem a bit abstract, but I think it's necessary to highlight them. Now, it gets a bit complicated after that because the reason why, as a possibility, there's a lot of argument about whether or not those that labeling itself is acceptable. It's because each individual operates in different ways and their response to information on a higher level interpretation is different for various people, but it can be they can be categorized in groups. So you may find that some people are for the concept and they support women who operate in that construct, or they're completely against it, or they're borderline, or just different emotions and reactions attached to that. There are extreme situations sometimes where women are some men decide that they're gonna buy whores. No, please don't be offended by the terms that I'm using, but they're gonna buy whores. Now, some men can't understand why are they attracted to whores, even though they've decided on, or society suggests that they're supposed to operate within a certain way of being. And the reason why some men possibly connect with whores is because in the term whore as well, if we look at the term, it has the whole element in it. So it's as if the man who makes that decision, he in himself sometimes, because he's not at his higher level of consciousness, or recognizing what's happening with how he processes information, his actions are confusing to him to the degree where it impacts his decisions and also impacts other people because he hasn't come to a consciousness of self. Now, this video is 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 not about trying to say if one woman fits within the stereotype of being a hoe, or if a group of women should act contrary to the concept of hoes. But it's important to understand that when information is shared over and over again, it becomes a norm within the society. And sometimes we will react according to what seems to be normal. So, from the viewpoint of coming to the point of knowledge and any information, well, these things that I've suggested in this video, there it can be justified from different uh, knowledge approaches. Let's just put it that way. But I think using the term loosely without having an understanding of not only the varied emotions attached to it and also the way the man or woman looks to the society when they're not at a conscious level of understanding why they're using the term, how it reflects on women who have brought children into this world, how it reflects on how the society has been constructed from a protection standpoint, and the challenges that people or that would result from such a focus on trying to figure out why women act a certain way or why men respond a certain way. So if even other women use the term about women, now I think it's, you know, we may need to, before using the term, understand how it may look to call a woman a hoe when within the constructs of having a mother or a home or a house or putting on clothes every day or shoes or having hope, that the brain is extracting information from that and saying it's okay to function on that level. So some men who actually speak, or women who actually speak loosely about women on this level, or even men, now that there was a focus on women, but or even men who are labeled as hoes as well. It's important for us to be aware of what we're doing, saying, and how it impacts other people, and not to necessarily tap into the label and attach oneself to the label. Because no matter which woman a man marries, she still becomes a mother. He still aspires to buy her a house, or she will aspire to buy a house with him, or own a house, rent a house. The details are not important. And also ensure that certain things are in the household. And if you look at the term household, it's evident as a trend within the basics of how we operate, that the label is a constant there. So I wanted to put out this video to say, using the term hose, hose, hose all the time, we could question ourselves about the way in which we're using the term, who we're referring to, how we refer to them, how we speak about each other. It doesn't matter if it's men or women, how it reflects back on ourselves and our own choices, how it elevates us from a level of ignorance or brings us down to a state of ignorance when we use certain terms. Now, there's more information about how people can be triggered from certain things as well. So it's possible, and this would be a completely different video, that some people are actually acting in a on an from an autopilot standpoint. I'm thinking that if they operate within the label of being a whole, that there will be some form of acceptance almost at some point from somebody of the opposite or whatever people's choices are. I mean, from a sexual choice perspective, that at some point they will be recognized as being somebody of value to that individual. The problem is that the term in itself um, brings levels of relief as well, and for especially for men and women, but especially for men. So when certain challenges are faced within the comfort level of the man or the woman, but let's focus on the man. When certain challenges are faced, he may be inclined to be looking for someone within a similar characteristic trait to the source of where he came from, which was his mother. But as I said, it becomes very complex depending on different individuals, groups, and so on. So I wanted to put this video out to say that the label in itself, we we need to understand the root of it and just be careful how we communicate with each other and recognize that on a certain level, you know, our home, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but on a certain level, our home might not be such a bad thing. And sometimes instead of labeling women, look at the individual person rather than trying to put women in a category, because people respond to information differently and their reactions may be different. Sometimes people aren't at a level of consciousness where they even understand why they're doing what they're doing. Some people are looking for reassurance. They want to be recognized. They want emotional acceptance, and there are a combination of reasons and results that happen within how the society operates and how we communicate and just exist with each other. So I'm going to close by saying we really need to look at how we communicate with each other, and the respect that we put on each other's names and the labels that we put on others. Because sometimes in labeling others indirectly, we have labeled ourselves without actually realizing it because of our own ignorance. So I'm Michelle Samuels for Why Goals ID. And like I said, we're going to put out more videos. And the reason why we're putting out these videos is because we want to look at the individual, how the individual operates within the constructs of the society, how we communicate and advance and develop and evolve over time as well, and build from that onto the goals and aspirations that we want to achieve, but still operate on the higher tangent of the human experience, or just the experience of life in itself. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you for supporting all the videos. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video if you find value in it, make a comment, that would be really great, and hopefully speak to you in the next video.